this is Rachel from SunBearGlassCraft, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you a tour of the shed. So let's come on in. Alright, so when we first... Rude. When we first walk in, we have our glass shelves. It's a little messy, so let's move on past that. Over here, we have our extra supplies. It's a little messy too. Here's my work table. Okay, so sorry, it's a little messy. My grinding station, actually the least messy part of it all. Here's my desk. Oh, I'm surrounded by mess. I shouldn't have done this. We're not ready. Let's go back outside. For those of you who aren't familiar with me or my channel, I'll go ahead and catch you up to speed. In September of 2021, my fiance and I moved from a rented 1,500 square foot house in the city to a less than 250 square foot travel trailer in the middle of rural Florida. We moved onto a friend's land and had to clear about 1,600 square feet of trees, bushes, banana spiders, and leaf litter before we could place the trailer. I also purchased a 10 by 16 foot shed to be my glass studio, which miraculously arrived 3 days after I purchased it. Brian and I are very active and love being outdoors as well as around each other, so for us the transition wasn't very difficult. When I first moved my studio into the shed, there was almost no room to even walk, so the process of organizing and finding spots for everything has been a slow journey. In early November, I finally got the shed to a reasonable configuration, but after 2 shop updates and my final push of Christmas commissions, I was left with complete chaos and a seemingly unusable workspace. It was hard to anticipate my workflow and how to set up the studio, and although I tried my hardest, I think the reason my studio got so messy was due to the space just not being fully optimized. My drawing desk was next to my glass shelf, my glass scraps weren't close to my glass sheets, and my shipping supplies were stashed in like 3 different places in the shed, just to name a few problems. Overall, I think I just had a hard time going from almost 200 square feet of dedicated studio space in our old house to about 125 square feet of space in this shed, since the back wall is being used for storage. I took 2 weeks off at the end of December, and during my vacation, I finally got to tackle this horrendously chaotic beast. I started by clearing off all surfaces of the furniture that I needed to move and stashed most of it outside, plus cleared out all of this nonsense from the back part of the shed that's storage and put that outside as well. I generally consider myself a pretty clean person, but when you downsize so much from 1,500 square feet to I think less than 400 square feet of livable indoor space, it can just be kind of hard. For this studio reorganization, I basically moved everything except for my work table and my glass shelf. The reason for this is that my work table has the best view in the entire shed, so when I'm standing at that table and I look out the window, all I see are these beautiful trees and forest, which is just my favorite. And I wanted to keep my glass shelf behind me because it looks really nice and pretty whenever I film my intros as well as do my live streaming. The hardest part about this entire process was moving this stupid desk and having to flip it, because as you can see I had no floor space, but we did our best and we succeeded. I tried my best to get as much footage of this cleaning and organizing process as possible, some of which I didn't even get to, like I found an entire colony of carpenter ants living in those black and yellow tubs. That was like a whole nother thing. But after 5 hours, I was able to get the shed from the old, messy nastiness that you see here, which I showed earlier in the video, to finally a nice, easy, breezy, like it just feels better. It just feels more open with that desk chair not being directly in the center of the studio. Now, I promise we'll do a studio tour, but I'm just so proud of how I got the shed looking so good. So this is the before, and then this is the after. Oh my gosh, it's just so beautiful. You can see I moved my grinding station to right next to the door, and at this point I hadn't cleared off the table or really any of the surfaces yet, but I gave myself a nice foundation to be able to put everything in the appropriate spots. I also really love where I chose to put my desk because I can easily move my computer onto my work table for streaming, as well as have a better view than just looking at the air conditioner like I had right here. I honestly hated sitting here because it just kind of felt claustrophobic and it just everything felt wrong. So we got everything feeling right. I think moving this bookshelf as well and putting it on its side to give myself extra surface area was a really good idea, and it just kind of made that side of the shed feel a bit more flush against the wall. So now that I have everything clean, we can do an actual studio tour. On approach, you open the door and are greeted by my beautiful glass shelf, and when you close the door, you see this beautiful custom-made sign that one of my amazing clients had made for me. We'll start first at my grinding station, which currently is where my vacuum is living, but all I have to do is move it over to the side. And you can see that I have my glass grinder in a fish tank, which helps keep the glass dust and the spray from getting all over the place. And I also have this super bright magnifying light directly over my grinder, which I just adore for grinding. I prefer to do all of my work standing, so you can see I have two IKEA side tables stacked on top of each other, with my ring saw being in the middle of the two. Underneath my grinders is where I keep my bubble wrap, extra boxes, and random cardboard scraps. Off to the side here is where I keep my gloves as well as my cleaning supplies such as my D-lead wipes and my cleaner. I still have to find a good spot for these, but for now they're fine just sitting there. I also want to showcase this precious sign that my friend got me that has a little chihuahua on it, and I love looking at it because you gotta think big, you know? Now we can move on to my work table. I try to keep my work table as clean as possible, and I do so by keeping only the essential tools on the table itself, but y'all know that that usually is ruined by the end of one live stream. Now the table I have is like this unfinished wood, and I don't like the texture, so I have this cutting mat that I got from Blick Art Supplies, and as you can see on the back of the table is where I have all of my soldering supplies, my flux, extra solder, all of my tools, pens, Sharpies, and my paint brushes. I need another container for those, so I think I'm going to browse Etsy sometime soon. On the right side of my table is where I have my microphone, as well as the spot where my computer goes when I live stream. Moving on to the shelf that's above my table, which I built myself by the way, I have all of my copper wire, my magic erasers, any extra things that I need to just stash up there. I have patterns that I'm currently using, as well as my table foiler, my foil caddy, and an extra monitor, plus little bits and bobs that I just need during the creation process. As you can see, this table is elevated as well because I love standing. It's an IKEA kitchen table that I put on top of 4 crates that are all 12 inches in height. So I think in total, my table is about 44 inches tall. Now underneath my table is where I have a lot of my extra supplies stored. I found this plastic rolling cart at Target. I think it was like $12, and this is where I have all of my chemicals like my patinas, my polish, just basically anything and everything that I need I keep under here and can just roll it out when I need it. On the top level I have all of my paints as well as my chemicals, so polish, patina, cutting oil, grinder coolant, all that good stuff. And usually any extra just nonsense that gets thrown up there that could be considered a chemical or cleaning agent. I actually need to organize this shelf a little bit more than I thought I did because I have more black patina right now than I even know what to do with, but we will get there eventually. And finally, since it's my chemical shelf or chemical stash, I have my safety goggles hanging here as well. On the middle shelf, I have my grinder bits, my copper foil tape, my Sharpies, and any sort of hanging metal chain that I might need for my creations. You can see I have some paint pins back there that I still have not tried. And then on the other side, I have all of my magic erasers, unused plastic bags, and then my unopened N95 masks, which I wear when I solder. On the bottom shelf, it's just a free-for-all. There's gloves, there's used baggies, there's sponges. It's just basically anything that I need a space for that I don't care about how it looks. Next to the rolling cart, I have all of my other backup supplies. I have these bare oven mitts to get my glass pieces out of the oven once they're done baking. I have a backup iron. And then this is where I keep all of my lead cane, and there's lead cane in that brown box and an entire case of solder in that UPS or USPS box below. Solder prices are absolutely crazy right now, so anytime I see it on sale, I get a case, that way I never run out. Next to my table, I have my corkboard squares as well as my light box, and then just a bunch of random boxes I use for packaging. And now we can move on to my desk. This is where I do all of my planning as well as packaging. So any sort of outlines, I'm going to do it at this desk. So on my desk for packaging, you can see I have my shipping label printer, and then I have this little caddy thing that has all of my stamps and stickers and business cards as well. Next to my computer, I have this little organizer thing that just has all of my planner scrapbooking type things in it. So little post-it notes, random notes, just anything and everything. It's really disorganized, but it's there. This tall skinny shelf used to house my glass scraps, and now it just houses my sketchbooks, my business paperwork, basically anything and everything that I just need to put there that's paper. Underneath my desk, I have some Tupperware bins. This one has some shipping supplies in it, my tape, my suction cups, and then this one has all of my unsold product in it. Next to these is a giant plastic bin that has all of my bubble mailers in it, and I actually need to order more, so the only ones in there right now are the size 2. Moving on to my new glass storage bookshelf, you can see here that these are my scrap pieces that are too small to put on my shelf, but too large to put in a Tupperware bin. So they just kind of awkwardly are in this box, and I try to keep it as color-coded as possible, but I do need to reorganize it. Next, we have our glass scraps, which I don't use a lot of, so it's a lot of more rarely used colors. I do have a lot of creams, so I'm going to be putting my creams in a shoebox, but here you can see my purple, iridescent purple, greens, iridescent greens, and I like to have everything separated from non-iridized and iridized and just keep it as organized as possible. Most of these will be updated to be in shoeboxes like what you see over here. So finally, this is my glass shelf and is my absolute favorite part of my studio. I have all of my sheets of glass organized by color, so I have all of my reds, oranges, yellows, and browns in this cubby, greens and blues in the next cubby over, and then my pinks and purples, which are probably my absolute favorite cubby. And then all the other cubbies, I just try to keep all the glass colors as together as possible. And on the bottom section of this shelf, you can see I have my shoe boxes with my most commonly used colors, such as oranges, browns, blues, and greens. And this orange box is completely out of control. I need to go through it and sell some of those scraps. I find that this shoebox method works best for me. I know that everyone has a different way of storing them, but just keeping the general color scheme together, even though some of my blues are more of a teal, some are more dark, you can at least go and be like, oh, all of my blues are here. I also recommend, if you have a lot of glass, getting these shelf organizers. One of my subscribers actually got me a new one for Christmas, as well as like a bunch of other stuff. So everything looks so beautiful now. And finally, off to the side of my glass shelf is where I store all of my large sheets of glass. These are colors that I was either gifted, got in estate sales, or they're colors that I use all the time, like varying shades of cream. On top of my glass shelf, I have all of my cute little foresty collectibles and bits and bobs, as well as a picture of my grandpa. I think that covers it for my studio tour. I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time.